More land is owned by Bill Gates than there is in the entire city of New York combined. A total of 420,000 acres of Jeff Bezos' land have been acquired, which is more than double the original amount. On John Malone's own 2.2 million acres, he owns a little less than 1/5 the area of Puerto Rican territory. Despite the fact that the United States is enormous, just 100 of the country's wealthiest and most powerful private landowners control 1.86% of the country's total land area. Forests, ranches, and farmland make up the majority of their land. Welcome to the Financial Flow. Please like and subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to stay up on our latest videos. In the mid-1990s, farmland was valued at less than $1,500 an acre, adjusted for inflation. Since then, land has only become more valuable. By 2020, the price per acre had risen to $3,160. John Peyote, President and CEO of American Farmland Trust, said, "It's expensive, so if somebody is desiring land, it is primarily people of wealth who can afford it." While Steve Brewer, President of People's Company, added, "Institutional capital is growing and is becoming a bigger piece of the market. It's about a $3 trillion asset class when you look at the whole US. However, not all farmers are reaping the benefits of rising farmland prices. Starting a farm will become increasingly difficult if prices continue to rise as they have recently." Farmland in the United States is something that we don't think about very often, but it is crucial to our survival and our ability to thrive as a society and as individuals. The question is, why are the super rich buying up farmland, and what effect will this have on the agricultural industry? In 2020, Bill Gates became the largest private landowner in the United States, making headlines. In less than a decade, he'd amassed 269,000 acres of farmland spread across 18 states. Why is he using a shell company to buy land and hide his purchase? Economically speaking, it's a smart move. Peyote said, "Land has always been something that the ultra-wealthy people have real means have desired. It has great intrinsic value. Beyond that is a limited resource. They're not creating any more of it, and in fact, quite the opposite. We lose farmland all the time in the United States. We're losing farmland at a rate of about 2,000 acres a day. It is not only more and more important over time, but we have less and less of it, so it's an asset with increasing value." Brewer said, "It's not correlated with the stock market and other major asset class, and so people like the diversification. And it's been a very stable performer. If you go back to COVID, when the stock market, last 10, 20, 30, 40% at the beginning of COVID, you don't wake up and find out that your farmland is worth 50 cents on the dollar the next day." Not only is Bill Gates interested in making an investment in this project, as of 2011, the top 100 US private landowners collectively owned about 32.7 million acres of land. Today, that number stands at 42.1 million acres, roughly the size of Florida and Connecticut combined. McDonald's French fries are made on his farm with onions, carrots, and even potatoes grown on his farmland. Private landowner Thomas Peterfy, with 581,000 acres under his control, ranks 17th in the United States. Peyote said, "If someone is really interested in acquiring a piece of land, and with farmers, once you own one parcel, you often want to own the parcels that are adjacent to it. So if you can make those purchases quietly, it might be a far more successful way to make those purchases economically." Few states east of the Mississippi River, like Maine and Florida, contain the majority of the forest, ranch, and farmland owned by the largest private landowners. Today, farmers who do not own farmland own 30%, according to the USDA. Farmers who have owned land for decades are frequently the sellers to buyers, and many of those farmers have a lot of assets but little money. The land is sold primarily to those who are willing to pay the most for it in the market. As a result, non-farmers buy a large amount of farmland. Brewer said, "Institutional capital is growing and it's becoming a bigger piece of the market, and it is part of that wealth transfer that's happening when you look at demographics behind who owns farmland. By utilizing the land in a variety of ways, a profit can be gained. Approximately 39% of the United States' 911 million acres of farmland is rented out to farmers, and 80% of that rented farmland is owned by landlords who do not farm themselves." Peyote said, "A lot of non-farmers who purchase property, they may then hire somebody to farm the property for them. they may lease the property to be farmed by others, and leasing is actually often a very good strategy for farmers if it's a well-structured lease. Holly Rippenbutler said, "In some cases, there are tax incentives that incentivize landowners to have farming occurring on their land, and that is giving them a tax break, essentially for the work that the farmers who are leasing from them are doing, but it can in some cases mean that the farmers get a break on the lease price as well." Farmers in the United States have benefited greatly from the involvement of private landowners, according to some, who argue that leasing farmland has provided new opportunities for farmers who otherwise could not afford to farm. POD said, "One of the biggest barriers for incoming farmers is the high cost of farmland, and one way around that is if you have a good lease agreement with a landowner. You can farm successfully without having that initial outlay of cost." Thomas Purify said, "The young farmers, I'm just as happy to lease the land because whether you are young or old, it's a business, right? The businesses of farming is becoming more and more specialized. There are the people who concern themselves with what to plant. There are the people who do the planting, who own their machines and work their machines, and then there are the people that market they produce. So efficient farming is not one person that's doing the whole thing." Those opposed to the idea fear that new farmers will be unable to compete with landowners like Bill Gates. Farmer of Barefruit and Grow said, "People are swooping in, and that don't even live in this community, and land grabbing they can live in California, and be able to purchase property here in our city just like that. With increasing competition in land and increasing values of land, it really puts farmers in a challenging position because they are not competing against individuals with the same income as them. Leasing, while appealing on paper, can put farmers in a difficult position. Farmers need long-term security to invest their businesses, and leasing does not provide that. People who tell farmers that they have the option of staying or leaving when the land is going up for sale are putting them in a difficult position. With the involvement of private landowners in some areas, home prices and living expenses have skyrocketed, but more farmland is expected to be put on the market in the near future." Brewer said, "When you look at the demographics around who owns land, it's impractical to think that farmers are gonna buy every acre that transitions over the next 20 years. We think, in some form or fashion, about 50% of the farmland in US turnover over the next 25 years. POD said, "At this time, I would say that the jury is out on whether or not large purchases by the ultra-wealthy is a good or a bad thing, but I honestly do believe that having large landowners with the ability to look long-term at the land and do what's right by the land, and maybe in a position to say the least, the land to incoming farmers at affordable rates. That could all be positive, and so I'm hopeful it can be that." Holly Rippenbutler said, "There are fewer farmers with every US AG census, and there are slight increase in the number of young farmers, but really at this point, not enough to replace the farmers who are leaving the industry. So we need more young farmers, and we really need to support them by making access to land possible." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Have a good one.